everybody. My name is Jessie, and I am an art therapist. Something that we talk a lot about in art therapy, and I guess therapy in general, is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of centering yourself in the present moment. This means experiencing the emotions that you are having right now, the body sensations that you are having right now. Mindfulness is trying to put yourself in the moment as you're experiencing it, not thinking about things that have happened in the past, not thinking about things that are going to happen in the future. Just where you are, what you're feeling, what you're doing, right here, right now. So that's the way that mindfulness is used in a lot of therapy, but it can be used in art therapy specifically as well. This happens a lot of times in the art making process. You can really just get lost in the moment that you're in. That's where the mindfulness comes in. We do art and mindful art exercises so that we can focus on the moment, pay attention to the moment, what you're making, what you're doing, what you're feeling. So there are a handful of art therapy exercises that work really well for helping with mindfulness, and I am going to show you one of those right now. We will be making a mindfulness garden. So to do this, I'm going to use watercolors. So I've got my watercolor palette, my watercolor brush, and a paint mug that I can use for the water. And I also have a Sharpie, a thin pen Sharpie, or other permanent marker will work, so that I can actually design the garden after I'm done with my flowers. So let's get started. So the very first thing that I'm going to do for my mindfulness garden is put a bunch of colors on my paper. So I'm going to dip my watercolor brush in my water, and I'm going to pick out one of the colors that I want to start with. I think right now I am feeling really bright and energized, so I'm going to go for some of my bright colors like this bright green or my yellow or my orange. I'll start with that bright green. So there are a couple ways that you can go about watercolor. The first way is by just, straight getting the watercolor on your brush. And what we're going to do in this exercise specifically is just paint random patches of watercolor. So that's one way to go about it. Another way that you can go about it that makes things a little bit more random is if you wet your paper first. So you can take your brush, you could also do this with a spray bottle, and create a wet patch on your paper. Then, once you've done that, you can go ahead and get some of those watercolors on your brush. And we'll brush the colors onto the wet spot. So what you'll see here as I put my ink or my watercolor on that wet spot is that it spreads. Because the spot is already wet, those colors bleed out into the other areas. I can also tap, and those dots will spread out into the paper. This is probably my favorite way to do it because it gives you a little bit less control. And that's very important in mindfulness because it's kind of hard to control the present moment sometimes. We're just in it. We're just experiencing it. So I like to just add that element of randomness. Give up a little bit of control in the moment and let my art make itself. In art therapy, watercolor is a really important tool for this very reason. It's cool to see where the paint takes itself. Because it's a medium that you have a little bit less control over, it's interesting to see what happens with it and then to take a look at it and see what you can see. Maybe the shapes will become something else to you entirely, and they'll carry a different meaning. You may have seen some videos where I have talked about art therapy before, and that's because art therapy is something that is just so incredibly important to me. I mean, it's my whole job. I think it's really wonderful how you can use something as simple as arts and crafts with watercolor paints to have a moment of tranquility and peace in your life. I think that's really cool. So I'll show you my progress so far. I've started to add in a few other colors. I have incorporated red. I am just starting to incorporate a little bit of yellow. And my painting, my garden, my mindfulness garden, is starting to bloom. So this is what I've got so far. You can see all of my colors. It's even starting to drip. That's so cool. That is adding an extra little element to my painting. All right, so now I'm gonna go in, and watercolor dries very quickly, which is quite fortunate. I am going to draw in a flower. So I'll do one here first. I'll start with the center. I'm gonna make it a little squiggly. And then from my center, I'll grow out some petals. I am intentionally making it messy because I don't want a perfect garden. I want a garden that is unique to the moment that I am in. So I could maybe do a couple other flowers and build my mindfulness garden. My garden for the moment. So I hope you learned a new technique, something to try. Maybe if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're thinking too much about the past or the future and you need something to ground you in the moment. Thanks for joining me. And if you would like to join any of our future programs or learn more about what we do, please go ahead and visit us at www.theconcernedkids.com. It's where we have all of our future programming and the fun activities that we know you love to do. See you there.